Hi, you're on the Bible Forum. I'm Warren Sprouse. It is Sunday night. It is May 6th, first Sunday in May, and we're here to talk to you about GQ magazine. I don't know if you subscribe. I don't know anybody who ever did. But GQ magazine came out just this last issue telling us about the 21 books you don't have to read. Books like Catcher in the Rye, Old Man and the Sea, Lord of the Rings, Lonesome Dove. But in this mix, we found the Bible. And the author's criticism of the Bible is that it's repetitive. It's self-contradictory. It's sententious. Sententious. You got to say it right. There's two T's in there. Sententious. I didn't know either. I looked it up. Means given to excessive moralizing, self-righteousness. It's foolish and even ill-intentioned at times. What GQ does recommend is a trilogy by author Agota Kristof. There are 3 other authors involved. There's 4 guys that are writing this trilogy. It's called the Notebook Trilogy. The first book, obviously, is called The Notebook. Second book is called The Proof. And the last one is called The Third Lie. The storyline revolves around young boys caught up in World War II Europe. Lost in the chaos of that war, the main character, his name is Lucas, is challenged to prove his own existence and that of his brother. The brother who defected to the other side. I'm not sure which side is the other side. Against all of that is the Bible, which explains our origin, the planet, the people groups, the purpose, which explains and defines and describes sin in its source, in its purpose. A Bible who defines, describes, illustrates, explains where the nations come from and the languages and the religions. The Bible is the only book in the world that will tell you anything about God, about the devil, about redemption, and about eternity. But that's the book you don't have to read. In fact, you really shouldn't. Clearly, GQ's editorial board doesn't get it. And the simple answer is because spiritual things are spiritually discerned. And it is clear that the editorial board of GQ is not spiritually tuned in. You see, the Bible is not a textbook on origins, people groups, political evolution, social development, psychological theory, or anything else you can think of. It's a book about God. That alone would put it on the negative list. Its moral standards are eternal, unchanging. They are not relative standards, generational, cultural. The storyline in the Bible teaches moral, spiritual lessons. Its evolution is from good to bad and back again. Its formula is moral and completely objective. There are no heroes in the book except Jesus. Its timeline is eternal, from time past to time future. The families in the book that are described are flawed. Their methods are incomplete. There's no real attempt to focus on one family's success or failure, but rather one member of a particular family who is not really of this world. One member who has all the power and yet refuses to exercise it, choosing rather to submit to an unjust arrest, trial, conviction, execution. And he does this for what? For the sins of the world. Talk about grandiose. This is a book that has everything. And after he dies, this execution death, he actually returns alive in human likeness, fully functional. He comes back to pull his followers together spiritually and organizationally around a grand scheme of human redemption and glory. But that's not nearly as good, not nearly as powerful, not nearly as impactful as two lost boys in World War II Europe seeking their way through the melees to find each other and their own purpose. I suppose the book series that GQ likes is more human. The issues certainly are, meaning these are things that readers can actually relate to in their own life. But as far as they're concerned, eternity, heaven, hell, sin, salvation, the real issues of life are to take a back seat. What's the problem here? Well, the Apostle Paul explained it, dare I say, in the Bible. In 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 7, he says, "We speak the wisdom of God in a mystery. Even the hidden wisdom which God ordained before the world unto our glory, which none of the princes of this world knew. For had they known it, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. As it is written, eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, neither have entered into the heart of man the things which God hath prepared for them that love him. But God hath revealed them to us by his Spirit. For the Spirit searcheth all things, yea, the deep things of God." This is transcendent truth. It's apparently not enough for GQ. The story of mankind from beginning, explaining the differences in culture and purpose, teaching a consistent morality, a consistent character, a consistent hope, offering the only true hope mankind could ever have, encouraging and strengthening the core institutions and values of life, warning against deliberate rebellion and antipathy. But apparently a story that just cannot compete with the Notebook. The Bible story follows one man, one family of man, from Adam through Noah to Abraham to Jesus. It's a morality play on a grand scale, featuring every part of human life and death. It's about families built upon marriage, values based on objective standards of morality. It's a story of men who violate these principles, and as a result, bad things happen. It's a story where men embrace these principles, and constructive things happen. Nations are established. Those established by God prosper and continue. Those not established upon godly standards and principles are shown to be evil and destructive. Where God made promises to people and families, good things came about. There are conditional promises, there are unconditional promises. The differences are highlighted and illustrated both ways. There are promises postponed, largely due to sin. There are promises fulfilled, sometimes regardless of sin. But in every case, there are lessons. Mostly that God is able. That God will establish his work. Never fear. That men and nations can be contributors and share in the blessings. Or that men and nations can be careless and ultimately be excluded or punished. But overarching all of it is the message of redemption. You do know some of the all-time great stories of mankind, written by men and women in all of human history, have been about redemption. In the Bible, however, redemption is somewhat provided only to be lost again. And in many cases, redemption is postponed, promised for the future. There is the promise of God through Adam to Noah to Abram, Jacob to Joseph to Moses to Joshua to David to Daniel, and even to Jesus. A family of mankind over 4,000 years by which Messiah would come. Messiah bringing redemption from sin, fulfilling all the promises made to all the patriarchs of Scripture throughout all of human history. And a host of character issues and spiritual promises. No one has it better than a committed Christian. Wealth of soul, wealth of character, wealth of heritage, never without food, never without raiment, never without peace, never without promise or purpose or hope, never without opportunities to be godly and to be a godly blessing in someone else's life, never without the opportunity to be part of a process that changes a life. Or you can wallow in the fears and the degradation and the deferred hope of a young boy searching for his brother in World War II Europe. Their issue is emotionalism, fear, hope deferred, moral degradation, shock, and a host of other things, all of which are tried and true mechanisms to stimulate your emotions, the stuff of great books and movies. But always at the end, the same thing is true. Our choices expose our values. So, what are you going to read?